somehow even more, because this has been bubbling up and waiting to happen all season, and every TV broadcaster and media outlet have been absolutely waiting for this to happen. And in some ways, it kind of happened in a very strange way. And it was indeed the collision between Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. And it wasn't fighting for the win, that is for sure. It was fighting for fourth place in the closing stages. And it was Norris who caught up to Oscar and made I thought it was a very good move, actually, into the hairpin on Piastri. Maybe caught the championship leader napping, one would say. And then they had an amazing drag race, let's say, down that back straight towards the chicane, Patrick, because they both had DRS. And then obviously Piastri was a little bit better on the brakes there, managed to keep the inside line. Norris then came back, was in the slipstream, and then all hell broke loose down the start-finish straight. It was a lot of people saying it was very similar to the 2011 crash between Lewis Hamilton and Jenson Button. It kind of was similar, same part of the track, but it was different in many ways, I would say. But this was all on Norris, wasn't it, Patrick? I don't think there's any doubt in that.
Yeah, I mean, at least Norris owned up to it and didn't immediately start trying to play the blame game like some other teammates might have, or in other teams have done in the past. But yeah, it was just Norris was a bit too optimistic on a move, trying to get past him on the start-finish straight, and then just ended badly. But I don't think it's a surprise to anyone that was going to happen at some point sooner or later. I mean, McLaren have the best driver lineup on the grid right now. They have the most consistent. They have the quickest drivers right now. I mean, aside from Verstappen, and you could argue Russell in that match too. But I mean, they have a very consistent lineup. They have a very strong lineup. And when you have two drivers that are top drivers in Formula One on the same team in the quickest car, then I mean, we can also always look back into Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton at Barcelona 2016.
Yeah.
I mean, the same kind of thing happened. Fastest car, two extremely rapid teammates, and they're both 1 and 2 in the championship right now as well. So it was just going to happen sooner or later.
Yeah, I mean, this could have been both cars out, because if you think, if this was a few years ago where that barrier didn't extend out down that start-finish straight, Norris probably would have hit the pit lane wall and then would have continued on after in that kind of run, that grassy bit separating the pit exit and the kind of first couple of corners. He may have gone straight into Piastri, because we've seen, I want to say something really random, like the 2014 Canadian Grand Prix when you had Felipe Massa, Sergio Perez, and I think it was a Red Bull, had a crash at that first corner. And you kind of go straight on, and that's, I think, why they've put this extra extended bit of barrier at this part, is for a crash like this, because Norris just ended up just sliding along the barrier there, and obviously stopped him from going straight on and potentially going into Piastri, because that is the thing for McLaren. This could have been double DNF, the thing they feared all along, the papaya rules and all that stuff. This could have been the ultimate. But in the end, Patrick, this really helped Piastri, didn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, Norris already has a lot of pressure on him because he was the favorite to win the championship going into the season. Start out the season strong with a really solid win in Australia, and then not too long after that, Piastri as soon as Piastri took that championship lead, he hasn't really looked back and hasn't ever really had to look over his shoulder all that much in his current championship lead. So, and I mean, obviously, Lando is probably the most criticized F1 driver that is currently on the grid right now. I think people criticize him more than Lance Stroll nowadays, which if you would have said that a year or two ago would have been a very crazy statement, but it's just true now. Norris is, and I mean, there's a lot of hate towards Lando as well, which I think is unwarranted. I mean, he's not an angel by any stretch, but he gets into his own head too much, in my opinion. And I think that's going to really put a damper in things for his championship hopes.
Yeah, I agree. He gets an unbelievable amount of hate, Lando does, and it's weird, isn't it? I mean, that's maybe for another podcast, but why that is, why he gets so much hate, arguably, like you say, the most out of any driver on the grid these days. But there is, without doubt, this kind of mental weakness with Lando these days of the mistake is always there. And we've seen it already a few times, well, a lot of times actually, not even a few times this season, whether, it's the poor qualifying results, it was the jump start in Bahrain, it was the crash at Saudi, and, Miami kind of got a bit schooled by Verstappen, you could say, and so on and so on. He's really he's got that fragile element now with the mind games, if you like, and the racing side of things. If Lando's on pole and he's had a good start, because that's been another element before his starts in races, then he's no stopping him almost, because he's got nothing to worry about. But if he gets in a battle with another driver, he just seems to fall to pieces. And that is, I think, the big difference with this season, Patrick, in terms of the championship. Piastri is ice cold. He does not make mistakes on a regular basis, and he is unflappable by any of the drivers. Verstappen as well, cannot, I don't think even he can get under Piastri's skin. And Norris, I think, just really struggles with that. I think he really struggles the fact that there's somebody there that can just keep going with the performances. Piastri himself, Patrick, was having a pretty rubbish Canadian GP, you'd have to say, but I mean, in the end, he's came away with a big lead now in the championship. And how do you see that going now for the future races? We're into this another triple header now, and this is a critical part of the championship. We're obviously not even halfway through yet, but is Piastri, really the hot favourite now, or are you still kind of sitting on the fence a little bit?
I think Oscar's definitely the favorite right now, because mistakes are formed under pressure, but so are diamonds, and I think that's exactly what Oscar Piastri has been this season. I mean, they've thrown everything at him and the kitchen sink on top of it. So, and he's basically inflappable, like you said. He does not react to pressure, whether it's from his teammate, whether it's from Verstappen, whether it's from anybody on the grid. Oscar rarely makes a mistake, and consistency is what wins you championships, and I think that's exactly what Oscar has been. He's been consistent. Lando is a very quick driver too in his own right, but he's just been so inconsistent. And I mean, everything you brought up, the jump start in Bahrain, the crash in Saudi, and even last season too. I mean, if we look back at the Singapore Grand Prix, there's times where Lando almost makes a mistake under no pressure at all, because if you remember from the Singapore Grand Prix from 2024, he was miles ahead, but still almost wrecked a few times. Yeah. Even with nobody even remotely near him. He was in a different zip code, essentially. Yeah. And he still almost made mistakes. Piastri, on the other hand, hasn't really had that issue this season. So I think Piastri is the hot favorite, but Lando could change that if Lando, steps up the consistency a bit.
Yeah, I feel like we could almost be saying that for the rest of the season, where it's like, if Lando wins this weekend, then he's gonna be able to turn it around. And I've really thought that win at Monaco, actually, a track where we say about Singapore last year, even if you are leading out front, you can just throw it away in a moment. But he's not really managed to shake off these mistakes, and I admired the fact that he just accepted it was his fault straight away. That could have got a lot more messy, if you like. Could have accused Piastri of putting in the wall or anything, which he absolutely did not. But he could have gone down that road, but he didn't. He just took the blame, took it on the chest, and has to come back in Austria with a real kind of strong mindset to get back on track, literally, because, if he has another one of those, then I think Piastri is almost kind of got this, and McLaren will also be quite nervous if there is another clash between those two, that they may step in. They don't want a Rosberg-Hamilton scenario forming, but I don't think Piastri's that kind of driver for that to happen anyway. I think he is just so cold and calculating, a little bit like a Kimi Räikkönen from the past, where he will just get the results in on the board.